Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Expansion Point. I am your host, Brad Johnson. So, we have a very special episode today where we're going to be focusing entirely on viewer questions. So, this is going to be kind of an open Q&A through everybody that's in the chat. If you guys have basically tuned in to the previous episode, you know I talk about a lot of different stuff. I do have one question that's going to start off the episode today. And then, of course, we're just going to be going into the chat and just seeing if anybody does have any particular questions. So any questions are certainly allowed. Anything that you feel comes to mind, by all means, feel free to share. So with the expansion point, again, this happens every week, every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So again, this is the 14th episode. So again, if you haven't seen the past episodes, just go into the Akashic Academy and you can find them there as well too. There's even some on the playlist as well. So one of the first questions in that sense that I've gotten quite commonly that I was going to address today as well too is that how does one learn how to channel? Now in my past couple of episodes, I'd say past two episodes I would say, one episode a few episodes back and another one just recently, I have channeled the being known as Adronis. And so some people are curious about channeling, some people want to get involved with channeling, they want to know about what is the outline, what is the method as it relates to the channeling state. As we may notice that we go on to YouTube or anywhere else on the internet, we may find some channeled material. And it feels like a lot of people are channeling nowadays. And this is great to see. But there is certainly a quote-unquote science to the aspect of channeling as well too. And when you're basically going into channeling, you're working on keeping your mind as neutral, as calm, and as relaxed as you feel you possibly can. So you're finding a space. You want to create a sacred space within your own home, whether it be a living room, whether it be your bedroom, whatever it may be. And you're making this space very complementary to yourself. So if you're putting up favorite pictures, if you're lighting some incense, maybe if you're playing some very soft meditation music in the background, all of that is great because what you're basically doing is you want to find a space that you can just walk into and it just feels vibrationally lighter. So you just want to make sure that you have a sacred space, a space that you can really relax into, that you can just dive deeply into, and getting yourself into that relaxation state. Second most important thing, next to having a calm, neutral center, is being able to work together with your own intuition, working together with your own feelings. So this is where a lot of the focus comes into the heart chakra, right? So the heart itself is one of the most important areas for us as channelers to work alongside. So we're becoming very used to our feelings. Now for women, not so hard. Right? For men, quite difficult because we basically are built upon that aspect of logic. We're based upon that aspect of reasonability, right? Everything has to be rational in that particular way. So we're attempting, mainly as men, like I said, I've met some men who are quite connected to their emotions, that's great. But for some others in that sense, it's about moving your attention from the solar plexus chakra up into the heart chakra and starting to just work upon your feelings, right? Go back into the youngest years that you feel you can. Look into an emotion that you felt was happening. Maybe you were around a Christmas tree. Maybe you opened a present and you were super excited, right? You were just filled with love. Good, go back to that, right? We want to look into some emotions, some great, powerful feelings that we have. And we want to re-stimulate that. We want to reconnect with the heart center as we start to learn how to channel. So I do have an online course that's called the Channeling Development Course. It's channelingcourse.com. And of course, there's an entire series based upon how one can channel. Really, the whole idea is the first step is really, 1, getting a sacred space, creating a sacred space. 2, neutralizing yourself. 3, feeling your heart, working with your emotions, working with your feelings. Why is that important? Because we are connecting with spirit, and spirit works with subtle energy. And so when you start to spend some time in meditation, working with your heart, then you're moving into the language of spirit. It's what I've talked about going into theta state. So again, what you're doing is you're creating this stimulation through your mind within, creating a vision. And whatever that vision is, you're allowing your body to reciprocate that feeling. So if you're again noticing that you're in a beautiful oasis or you feel like there's a nice soft windy breeze, that's just so delicate and makes you feel great, and you notice that your body starts getting goosebumps or a nice chill, that's the indication that you're entering theta state. So when you're entering theta, that's again when you're connecting to the peak of your own God mind, of your own higher self. And now you can start asking your higher self questions once you're in that particular space. You're centered, you're surrendered, you're in a state of love, you're in a state of harmonious frequency, you're in a beautiful sacred space, you've tapped into your heart, you're feeling the reciprocation of the vision, the stimuli, with what you are receiving within, and your body is reacting to that, it's reciprocating it, and now you're able to tap in, right? And you go with the flow. So not everybody is going to have a grandiose vision, right? And some big idea of a great flash of light and somebody's just going to start coming up to you and start talking to you visually. That doesn't always happen. That may happen for maybe a very few people. But really how the common state of channeling works is that it's very, very claircognizant, which means that you're just getting this instant download. So when you're looking at a question that maybe you've written down on a piece of paper, you ask that question, a moment passes, and now it's like you open your eyes and you look down at that question. There's a feeling, there's an impulse within yourself that says, I already know the answer to this. And so now you're just writing it out. So do that. That's what you want to do. That's giving the impression of a download-based or claircognizant form of channeling. And again, that's one of the most basic ones that there is. So that's how I can answer that question as it relates to channeling itself. Okay? So again, you can go to channelingcourse.com. You can check out that course. It has kind of a Netflix-type subscription to it, and you can access that course. There's a lot of materials on that particular online course that you can check out. Okay. Katie asks, aren't we all channels? We certainly are. Look at it in this way, Katie. All of us are artists, but it doesn't mean that every one of us wants to pursue it, right? All of us can be builders, but it doesn't mean that everybody wants to be a part of that. Every single person can be a plumber. Every single person can be a teacher, but it doesn't mean that they're going to apply that, right? So everything that is within ourselves, yes, has the capability to be drawn out. It's all based upon one's focus, right? Based upon one's focus to move into that channeling state. So if I want to be a channel, then I need to dedicate myself. I need to focus myself and connect and commit myself to making something like that happen. So everybody has the potential to be a channel. Doesn't mean you're going to be a channel, but you have the potential to be a channel. Because if we're basically just very much caught up in the material world and all we're thinking about is materialism, and we're not giving any particular thought to how we can connect to our source, then that's the reality that that person chooses. They certainly have the potential and the possibility to be a channel, but they have decided not to be. They decided to focus on the material. They decided to focus on the external world. So the whole idea is that every one of us has the potential to be something. It doesn't mean that we're going to be it. It just means that that availability is there, that access to that particular form of knowledge is there. And it's all about your ability to be committed, to dedicate yourself, to basically look at it in the form of you being like an ascetic. And you are being an ascetic relating to what it is you want to create. So again, just like one who wants to be a teacher, just like one who wants to be a painter, a sculptor, whoever it may be, right? You always have the capability to do that. But again, it's your commitment level, it's your passion, it's your determination to make that a part of your life altogether. Okay? Okay, so Kitty says, hard for women with walls around their hearts, speaking for experience. Well, then you have to ask why those walls are there. You've put those walls up, right? You're utilizing all the power of the infinite to put these walls around yourself because of a feeling of insecurity that you have with your own emotions, with your own feelings, with who you feel you are. You don't see yourself in that particular state of value, and so you're putting up all of these particular walls around you. But what you're doing is you're utilizing all of the power of the infinite to do that. When you're basically creating a belief in your mind is an incredible amount of energy, right? It's a pattern. It's like a geometry, right? And it takes a lot of work to create a belief, right? It's a lot of work. It's strenuous to create a belief. But when we have a belief, that is our cage. That's basically what we're putting in. We may feel that it's a very wide cage, we may have a lot of room to walk around, but nonetheless, it gives you boundaries. It gives you that particular form of cage. So when you're basically holding yourself back and feeling that you put walls around yourself, that you use the infinite to create that, then that's basically letting you know that you're the one that's stopping you from going to where you want to go, which means you have to learn how to make peace with yourself. You have to learn how to make peace with your emotions. It's not about another person. It's not about other people. It's not about the situations or circumstances. It's about the idea about how you perceive your reality as, based upon the meaning that you put forward with it, and saying that, oh, I can't handle this. This doesn't feel good because I can't do this. There's no way that this can actually happen. So whenever you give such a statement of certainty, you create a boundary based upon blocking yourself, being able to move forward into a life that you wish to experience. So this is where you need to learn how to become soft. You need to learn how to become delicate. I'm a man just telling about this, and I've done this, right? I know there's women that are so much more intuitive and so much more connected to their own feelings, much more than I am, of course. But the whole idea is that it's the dedication, right? It's the commitment that you have to connecting with your inner development, your inner work, your spirit, your inner being. And if you really are connected and committed to making this happen, you're not seeing your spirituality as an identity. That's the biggest trap, right? I've seen people all around, right, male and female, that again will just use spirituality as an identity, and they'll just say, well, it's love and light and we're all one, etc., etc., but they're going through major problems. And what they're doing is they're adopting spirituality as a form of their own ego identity. And that's a trap, right? That's not going to help you whatsoever. The whole idea is that you need to be fully committed to this work. You want to be fully committed to yourself. You want to be fully committed to your inner being. If you're just wandering around and say, oh, yeah, I'm spiritual, I meditate twice a day, and I look at these videos and I listen to these experts, oh, I'm quite spiritual. No, not really. That's representing a spiritual identity. It's you actually being able to do the inner work. It's when I basically see people who are just smiling and they feel great and they feel radiant, because I can tell they're doing the inner work, right? And here's the thing. A lot of people talk about spirituality. Very few people do it. And that's the thing I've noticed over these past 10 years working with thousands of clients all over the world. I would say about 10% of the people that I've worked with are actually doing the spiritual practices, are actually going within themselves and doing the work, because I have a lot of people just coming back and saying, I'm stuck again, I can't do this again, I can't do this again. And it's always the same message. Listen to what your heart is saying. Listen to what you're putting out through your own self that's creating these barricades, that's creating these barriers and these walls. So again, the whole key here is working with your emotions. Get on your own side and start listening to what your emotions are telling you, because they're all just pointing back to traumas. They're telling you about how you were abandoned, how you were abused, how you were rejected. And so if you go through those three aspects, those three traumas are part of the grand degree, which represents that of lack, right? So if we are basically putting a lot of rejection, abuse, abandonment within ourselves, we're feeding lack. So we have to be very, very careful about what we're feeding. You want to be very, very mindful about where you're putting your energy, where you're putting your thoughts and your intentions, because you can sabotage yourself very easily. You can destroy yourself very easily. The human body is a fragile thing. Your mind, on a conscious level, is a very fragile thing. And you want to be very, very mindful as it relates to victimhood, as it relates to blame, as it relates to accusation, and all of these different things that are impairing you. That's why these walls are up. You're putting them up. You're the only one here. This is your universe. This is you as creator. So as creator, you're the one that's putting up all of these particular barriers upon yourself based upon these emotions that you deem what you consider to be valid. So whatever you validate is going to become your reality in the forefront of the conscious self. And of course, all of these things are lingering off in the background. And they can represent that feeling of distress, that feeling of anger, that feeling of jealousy, that feeling of guilt, that feeling of remorse, whatever it may be. And what we want to do is we want to take the background and we want to put it into the foreground. We want to bring it into our awareness. And we're saying, okay, I'm clearing this up. It's like a house that's just been dirty for a very, very long time. We're now starting to take out the broom and the dustpan. We're taking out the vacuum cleaner. We're taking out the washcloths. And we're now starting to completely clean house. And that's what we have to do with ourselves. It's not about anybody else. It's about how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world. Because it's our world. We create it in our own way. So keep that in mind as you continue to work with yourself and basically attempt to liquefy as many beliefs as you can so that you have no boundaries to explore through yourself. Okay? Hope that helps. All right, let's move down a little bit more. Okay. So here's one from Lale, I think your name is. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. It says, "Hi Brad, in terms of telepathic communications with beings, how can one focus to communicate with beings of light and love if the darker entities have occupied the space?" Well, this is where you want to again do clearing, right? So if you're doing some telepathic communications with other beings, really what you want to do is if there is a lot of debris within your space that may represent, again, heavy emotional states, high emotional trauma in that particular way, then that's what we want to clear out, because you have to understand that your space is a very large part of your own body, right? This is what I refer to as the reality body. It's not just looking at this physical container. So looking at everything within your reality is part of your body. So we want to do clearing. We want to clear ourselves out. So if we're noticing that we're talking with some very loving beings, that's great. But now we want to, firstly, make sure you're testing your entities. Okay? Now here's the thing, and I don't want to scare anybody. Now basically what happens is that there can be what's known as trickster entities. Okay? And trickster entities can take the form of loving beings. You want to be very, very aware of this. So what you want to do is, again, as I stated, have a sacred space, have a space where you can relax, be calm, be neutralized, and you're going into theta again because you're feeling this love energy flowing through you, right? You're feeling your body now becoming that feeling of love altogether. Great. Now what you want to do is, while you're in that theta state, you're going up to the being that you're communicating right now, and as you're feeling this love vibration and saying, "I am of Christ consciousness. Are you also of Christ consciousness?" Right? And if the answer is yes, then again you know that you have a very genuine being that you're working with. But what I would suggest is asking that question 3 times. So what you're doing is you're going up 3 levels each time. So the first level is high love. The second level is even higher love. Third level is the highest love that you can imagine. Right? So you're saying, okay, they've asked the first question. I'm going to take a few moments here. I'm going to raise my frequency even more. Now, I feel like angels are holding my hand. I feel so illuminated with love. Now I'm asking the second time, I am of the Christ consciousness. Are you of the Christ consciousness? Okay, and if they answer yes, good. Move up to the third level. Okay, now you're at the highest level. You're taking another few moments to really bask in this love vibration. It feels like you're just touching the hand of God in that pure form of innocence and love and compassion, and you answer again, I am of pure source consciousness. Are you of pure source consciousness? And seeing what the answer is. And if they say yes, great, you have a very good being that you're working together with. So if it's beings that are trickster entities, they can't go on that journey with you. At most, maybe they'll go up to the first or second level, right? But what I would suggest is that when you're communicating with beings, you're communicating with beings that you feel can reach the highest levels of love with you when you're in that state. This is what I call testing entities, okay? Very, very important to do. I did this with Adronis when I was first starting out as well, too. I was testing him quite a bit. I say, I answer to the Christ consciousness. Adronis, are you of the Christ consciousness, right? And he says, yes. And so I did the other 2 tiers as well too, and he said yes as well too to all 3. And that's the whole idea, because you're feeling it through your body. You're feeling this flow coming together, right? So if you're noticing that there's some debris, if you're feeling that there may be some dark entities that have occupied the space, what you're doing with all of that light that's flowing through you right now after doing that 3 tier is you're expanding that field of energy throughout your entire space. Okay, so you see it like a bubble. And it's almost like you see a ring inside a bubble, and you're seeing that ring moving in a clockwise direction, because what you're doing is you're fusing the pure, loving, etheric energy, and you're fusing it into the space with a clockwise direction. Okay, so you're like seeing this ring inside a bubble, and it just starts to spin. Okay, so you can attempt to make it spin as fast as you like. If you can't keep up with it visually, that's okay. Just feel it, right? Just feel like this ring is spinning faster and 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 faster until it's almost at the speed of light. And now what you're doing is you're completely filling that entire space with that Christed consciousness energy that you've placed inside yourself, right? So now you're expanding it throughout your own space. That instantly clears all of the energy within your surroundings, okay? So again, that's a little technique that you can try. So what we also want to do is we want to make sure that we're sanitizing our space on a daily basis. It certainly would. If you're just saying a blessing in your space, great, that's fantastic. That's all you need to do. You're doing a meditation and you're allowing pure, loving energy flowing into your space, great, that's all you have to do. So if you're noticing any particular form of intrusive energies, you certainly want to work on environmental clearing as soon as possible. So again, through the example I've given, right? The 3 tiers of testing your entity, and then rotating that energy in a clockwise direction. Make sure it's clockwise, not counterclockwise. Okay, what counterclockwise is doing is that we're opening up the physical to bring in the etheric. But what we're doing is that as we're already becoming this rod energy of pure love, we're already that etheric energy. And so what we're doing is we're grounding it. We're moving it into a clockwise direction that would represent physicalized matter. Right? So we're putting it into our material space using the clockwise energy. So clockwise is putting etheric energy into the physical. Counterclockwise is putting the aspect of materialized energy back into the ethers. Okay, so that's the general difference in that particular way. Now, if you want to beforehand use the aspect of the counterclockwise direction, and you feel like you're clearing this energy before you go to the 3 tiers, you can certainly do that. But really what we're doing here is it's almost kind of like an automatic process. When we start bringing in this love energy and we feel like this rod, and we're entering theta state because our body is reacting to it, we're already that charged rod of etheric energy. And so now we're just grounding that energy into our space. So basically, it's kind of an automatic process when we're bringing in the etheric energy into ourselves. Okay. Thank you, Lily, for your question. Let's go ahead and move on. Oh, great, Katie. I'm glad you heard the answer. That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, just going down a little bit more. This is maybe just a comment from Raphael. Raphael says, "This is amazing. I woke up last night at 3:30 a.m. and asked myself why I noticed I was hanging on to some negative emotions. So I say with it and asked myself what I could do to let go of them." Okay, yeah, absolutely. And to let go of them really is just compassion, right? It's working with your compassion as much as possible. The whole idea is that we come into this concept of saying that we are light workers, right? That's not entirely true. The whole idea, firstly, is that we start off with the shadow. We start off in shadow work. And as we work up with shadow, then we start to move ourselves into the light because we are working diligently within ourselves to do that internal house cleaning, right? And that's really the best way I can put it. It's like you're looking at yourself as a house or maybe a mansion in that way. And you notice as soon as you step inside the mansion, there's dust everywhere, there's debris everywhere, it looks pretty nasty because there's a lot of these energies that are hanging around, and a lot of them are emotionally related. So what we're doing, again, is we're picking up the dustpan, we're picking up the broom, we're picking up the vacuum cleaner, and we're completely cleaning house. And that's cleaning up the energies. And the way that that's being cleaned up is the compassion that you have for yourself. Okay, that's very, very important. Here's the thing. You want to have absolute compassion for yourself before you actually go out and help anybody else. Because what's going to happen is that as you start putting a lot of compassion into yourself, everything feels wonderful, right? Every person you meet is wondrous, right? The environments that you go to, the events that you experience, you're in so much compassion and so much love that you're just raining all of this beautiful love upon everybody. That's where it starts. If you're basically feeling down upon yourself, but you want to go out and help yourself, your ability to help that person will be extremely limited because your love will become conditional, because you don't have that high compassion for yourself. So this is where we want to work upon bringing as much love, as much compassion, as much appreciation into ourselves, our loving and honoring of ourselves as possible, right? Wake up in the morning, give yourself daily acts of compliment. Simple acts of compliment, simple acts of kindness, right? I'm thankful for waking up and breathing the fresh air and enjoying another day of life. The sun's shining. I'm grateful for feeling the sun upon my skin. You go to your closet, you have your favorite wardrobe you put on. I'm grateful for being able to clothe myself in this wardrobe that I love. You're going inside the bathroom, you're having a shower, you're having a bath. I'm thankful for this moment, right? That's all it is. You're being thankful. You're being grateful for everything that you are experiencing, the simple things. And that's elevating your consciousness so much. That's moving yourself into such a pure radiance that you're now feeling this incredible wash of beauty, of compassion upon yourself. And now when you go out to the world, you're feeling, high as a kite. You're feeling energetically high, right? And you're feeling this pure love that's flowing through you. And now you're just radiating it to the world. So a person could come up to you and they could have the most foul day ever, but you're still blessing them because you feel this pure compassion, right? You're just completely, I would even say exaggerating. You're exaggerating these simple acts of kindness, and the exaggeration is coming through compassion. You're being so grateful, so thankful for all of these things. And now so much of your energy has spiked up, and your old fear aspect or anger aspect is down here, and your love is way up here. So now you're taking that love and you're washing that anger clean, right? It's like just watching the light engulf darkness. It's like it's just being able to shine its rays upon it. The darkness now completely becomes engulfed and light takes over. Well, that's the whole idea. We are substituting the idea of fear for love, of anger for compassion, right? Of apathy for compassion. So we're putting all of that together here. So that's what I can share with that. So again, it's a very good comment there, Raphael. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Joanne has a question. This pole shift that is in process, do you think it will be a lesser event than what has been prophesied? Well, a pole shift has actually already happened. That's the thing, is that part of our planet has already started to shift, and it's actually shifted since around 2011, 2012. So we've already had a partial pole shift here, and this basically comes down to the point where we eventually will have a new North Star. So it's not the idea of Polaris. I believe it's moving up into Vega. So we basically have Polaris, Vega, Fornax. Okay, those are the three rotating, through the Earth's perspective, rotating North Stars that come together. So we're basically moving into the conjunction now, where the Earth is already starting to shift a little bit, and it's going to take quite a long time, but it will move into the North Star, our North Star being that of Vega. Okay, so that's where we're going right now. So there has already been somewhat of a pole shift that has taken place. So that's already happened around 2011, 2012. And really, in that sense, we didn't feel a thing, right? Certainly we've had earthquakes, certainly we've had some tremors, etc. But, so many of us are still here, right? We still have over 7 billion people here on the Earth. So this is the whole idea, is that you want to be very, very careful with these doom and gloom articles that you see. You want to be very, very careful, and you really want to discern them, right? Because I see them all the time as well, too. There's an asteroid that's going to hit Earth, or, there's going to be some nuclear explosion, or there's going to be a massive tidal wave, or we're going to hit a huge pole shift, and it's going to wipe out the entire planet. No, guys, that's not what's happening at all. We have passed a lot of those particular timelines. Those old prophecies, in that sense, are also just used as a particular form of fear propaganda in helping yourself to align to the world that you want to be in, right? And so as a lot of people see a lot of these fear propagandas, they realize that it's actually shifting them into something that they actually prefer rather than what they don't. And this is what Adronis has talked about as well, too. In order for you to see who you are, you must first see who you're not. So again, we're looking at all of these aspects of propaganda, but just as an option to realize, well, do I want to exist in a world where that's happening, or do I want to create a world where this is possible, right? So by many of us starting to choose what we know we prefer, That's what makes all the difference. That's what shifts collective timelines. That's what's moving us into a new space. So yes, absolutely, the Earth may still continue to shift a little bit here and there, but it's not going to be at a point to where it is going to create disaster on a large level, right? So basically, we could say that there are two polar vessels, starships, you could say, that are at the north and southern poles. And at any particular time, they slowly move over a course of time, and that's actually tilting the Earth. So again, there are two large polar-sized vessels upon our planet, above our planet, below our planet, and they are appropriately adjusting the Earth as it needs to be. So we are not going to experience any particular form of extinction level event, right? That's something very, very important. Why is that important? Because it's very, very important for humanity to go through the shift at this time, for as many people on the planet as possible to witness this shift. And that as we are starting to take our power back, we're starting to realize who we are. That's what's making all the difference here altogether. Okay, so don't get too hooked up on the idea of this doom and gloom stuff, because again, it's only just helping you to make a better choice in that way. But again, if you dive into the fear of it, you're missing the point. It's only helping you to make a better choice. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we're out of time. That kind of sucks. Time flies when you're having so much fun. So. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of The Expansion Point. I really enjoyed everybody's questions and comments. If I didn't get around to your question today, I apologize. You can go to newearthteachings.com. I do offer private sessions as well, too. Akashic record readings, the EQ method, instant healing system as well, too. Plus, there's a new course coming out here on November 22nd. It's called the Body Regeneration Series, so you may want to take a look at that. That's all about reprogramming the cells in your body through the theta state, and I think you'll really, really enjoy that for those who are familiar with my work. So anyways, thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you again next week, but of course, in another perspective of the now. Take care. Namaste.